you doing? Today is the day. Today is the day. I'm going to attempt to put these TrakMotive axles, CV axles, the heavy duty, extendable TrakMotive CV axles. Gee whiz, lady. There's no stop sign. Pedestrians are crossing the road. You don't have a stop sign. How you doing? This is the start of the video. All right, look. It's funny. So we're gonna put the axles in. I've done these CV axles multiple times. I've got multiple videos on it. They're pretty bad. I'm not the best at this. They're never how-to videos. I did one where it's like how to replace a CV axle, and I scrolled through that this morning. I was like, oh, that was terrible. But you should watch them if you're going to do this job. You know, you'll probably pick up a few tips. You'll see me make mistakes and say the wrong thing, and I get them in. It's really not that difficult. There's just tedious things that can happen. So I'm going to go over the procedure with you here while I'm driving. And then I'll shoot a couple little clips. But again, it won't be a how-to, excuse me, unless I run into something crazy that you need to know about. So obviously you want to be safe. You want to block your rear wheels. You want to, you know, jack the vehicle up, put it on jack stands. I find it's easier to loosen the axle nut and even the lug nuts if you want, but if you have an impact driver, you don't need to do it while it's on the ground. If you want to crack them free while it's on the ground, it'll make it easier getting the nuts and everything off once the wheels are off the ground. Because when the wheels are on the ground, they don't roll, right? At any rate, jack it up. Now, the better place to put your jack stands, I finally got a heavy-duty set of jack stands, and I put them behind the front wheels under the actual subframe there, that clip, the front clip. There's a little bump there. And I set the van back down on that, and then I go to pulling everything apart. So you got to remove your brake caliper, and you want a heavy-duty piece of wire or something. And I hang it from the bolt that the shock mount, the upper shock mount. I hang it from there. The thing about that is you want to keep your brake line from stretching. You don't want to put undue stress on that. Up above the frame, you can reach underneath there, follow the brake line sensor, not the brake line, but the wheel hub assembly wheel sensor. You can unclip it there, pull it out. There's two bolts for that. There's one on the firewall in front of the wheel, kind of, and then there's another one that's on the upper control arm. Let that hang, but be mindful of it. Okay, then you're going to be pulling your cotter pins for, you've got to remove a, on the driver's side anyhow, there's a kind of like that tie rod link, there's a castle nut. So you got to pull that apart. You have to do the castle nut and clip on the upper ball joint. When you do the I'm calling it a control arm, it's not the right thing. The steering linkage is connected to the front knuckle on the driver's side. Pull that and whack that and separate it. It's going to make it easier for you to get a long wrench in to take that castle nut off the upper control, upper ball joint, the nut there. You'll pull those, you'll bang it free, and that front knuckle will fall down into your lap. You still have the lower ball joint connected, and you can push out the axle at that point from the wheel hub assembly. Real simple. And then what I like to do is support the CV axle somehow with another piece of wire to kind of hold the CV axle up so it's not going to bind on anything. And now you got to pop the CV axle free, so you need a pry bar for that. And there's different places to pry off of. So like on the driver's side, there's this flange with nuts that hold the seal and everything in place. And so you want to pry off one of the heads of those bolts. And on the other thing, you're prying off the axle shaft. So you get in there. You got to do it's a tedious thing, and you have to be mindful of what you're doing. But you get that pry bar in there right and get the right force on it, and you'll pop that off. But what's going on is there's a hollow section to the CV axle that's splined, and there's a little spring clip in there. That's what you're trying to separate. And it's a good idea to put a little grease on the end of your CV when you put it back in. Anyhow, you pull that apart, you pull the CV out. You might leak a little fluid from the front diff. I have in the past once, and other times it didn't leak. It's fine. Check your levels. You can run them a little light. It doesn't have to be full to the brim on them things. It's okay. And then you just basically reassemble everything. It's not that hard. The last time I did it, I think was like August of 23, so it's like not quite, well, it's like a year and a half, right? So they should come out pretty easy. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, so stick around. Next time you see me, I'll already have the vehicle jacked up, probably, and the wheels off. I don't want to waste time. I think I said this a minute ago. The last time I did this, it took me about 2 hours, and that was with filming stuff and taking a break and everything else. So it shouldn't take that long, you know, knock wood, you know, here, barring any incidents. So I'm going to try to be mindful of this. Really, I always find that it takes longer to get the tools out and set up. I know I need an 18mm socket. I know I have this particular wrench that's standard size that works the ball joint nut and the castle nut, I believe, on the steering part there. And then you need a 13mm for the bolts for the brake sensor. You need some pliers and a screwdriver, you know, to get the cotter pins out. I mean, one time I was doing it and the cotter pin broke, and it was like a nightmare trying to get the cotter pin out. So like little things like that can happen. I'm doing this the way I'm doing it on the floor of the floor. You know what I'm saying. It's not the floor, it's the concrete of the driveway. I'm doing this on purpose this way to show you that you can do this. All right, that's why I'm doing it. I could go to Dave's and get up on a lift, but not everybody has a lift. So, you know, I want you to know that you can do this, okay? Because a lot of you guys are going to want these axles. And remember now, TrakMotive sent me these axles for nothing. Well, they want me to give them a... I'm going to pull up here. I think I'm going to pull the client's car out on the street so I can use the... Oops. Shit. Hit the curb. So that I can... utilize the whole driveway. It'll just be easier to do the job. Yeah, I'm about to get started, so this was just a preamble to the video. Like I said, I'll show you a couple clips here and there as I feel like I need to, but again, it's not a how-to, it's just me doing it. But knowing me, I'll probably get more into it than I want to. So stick around. It's going to get interesting, I promise. Alright, so I got the tools out here that I know I'm going to need. I'm going to need my breaker bar, my socket for the wheel hub. That's the center right here. I happen to have a 36mm socket for that. Some of these nuts are different sizes, but this socket seems to work on all of them. Wire to hang the brake caliper, pry bar. This is for getting my wheel lugs off. This is a 1" to, what is it? It's 1 1/8 on one side. Was it? It's 1 1/16 on one side, and it's a 1" on the other. And that's this works great for upper and lower ball joints. This was a special wrench I had to find. You might want to find one too. Screwdriver, 18mm socket, 13mm socket, 13mm wrenches, pliers, needle nose, little hammer to pound on stuff. This makes taking bolts out a lot faster. And impact driver, get the wheels off, flashlights. And you know what? I'm going to pull the rubber off. I'll show you that probably and talk about that because I got to buy some new material. I found a source I think will work, so I have to measure those. That's that piece of rubber that's hanging right in here. When you do your lift, as I was saying, that's too short then. You do 3-inch body spacers, theoretically that needs to be 3 inches taller, and I'd like to make new ones. Man, I hit the rim here on something. Probably when I was off-road, or you just saw me hit the curb a minute ago, so I do that from time to time. Anyhow, you saw me use this jack the other day with these blocks. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? I do it because otherwise the jack won't reach. It won't lift the van up off the ground. You need a larger floor jack, and I don't have one. I've never once had these blocks fail on me because the weight of the vehicle keeps it from going anywhere. And we've got these heavy-duty jack stands, and they're going to be underneath that nub right there. All right, that's where you want to place them. And I've got the rear wheels blocked, so we're good to go. Let's get this job done. It's what time does that say there? It's almost 10:30. We'll call it 10:30 on the Seiko turtle here. Made that new band the other day. 22 millimeter lug width, and the band itself is about 25 millimeters wide. You see it steps out beyond the lugs. Yeah. That's the TrakMotive part number, but don't bother looking it up yet. This is, you know, I think it's March 22nd, 2025, and they're not yet available to the market. I've got the first set. Before I get crazy, I'm going to take a little bit of this red and tacky. I'm going to put it in here on these splines and a little bit on these outer splines. And I'm doing that just because I might forget later when I'm frustrated. After I'm ready to install these, I might forget that step. Also, I just want to point out, and right away it tells you you should replace the seals and the clips, and I'm not doing that. So again, I'm not a professional mechanic. This is not a how-to video. It's how I'm doing it. I've taken these CVs out multiple times. I've replaced them. I have 3 sets of CVs up on this shelf, so that's 6 of them. I'm going to have 2 more sitting around, and I'm putting these in. Main reason I replaced them so many times was the boots keep tearing on them and throwing grease all over the place. I don't know why. And TrakMotive makes CV axles, by the way, like normal ones. That's why I'm not concerned. These should fit. They did the R&D on them first, as far as them fitting in the van. They should fit. But they've got a really nice high-quality rubber on here, or whatever this is. These boots should hold up to 4x4 abuse, but also regular road use. The CV axles you're buying, they're very inexpensive. The boots don't work. You can buy a rebuild kit, which I have, and I'll probably rebuild this set because I want to carry at least 1 CV with me at all times just to be on the safe side. I got some spots underneath the chassis where I can mount one. I'm going to case it in a PVC pipe and all that, just as a precautionary measure, because I have these tools with me all the time. So if a CV goes, or pretty much anything on this van, I can fix it on the side road. You've seen me do some of that already. Anyhow, let me get on with this. So I've spent quite a bit of time just getting this all set up. I haven't removed anything yet, but I wanted to give you a look-see. I was underneath there inspecting, looking for issues, popped these off here, and figured I'd give you guys a quick look-see. So you can see once you do a lift, and these are the engine lift brackets, and mine are only a 2-inch lift. We're going to put new ones on that'll lift this another inch, the engine and the transmission back up into the body to match the 3-inch body spacers you see here. But you can see how much easier it is to do the spark plugs. You know, it's funny, part of me doesn't want to do those. I was going to do them because we changed the design. It's easier for me to get to these spark plugs here. If I lift the engine up another inch, it'll be a little bit more difficult. So Dave, if you're watching this, that's a thing. You can see I heat and beat this, but I'm still getting a little rub up here. and a little bit over there. It's not bad. That's only on full turnout. This is where I have to disconnect your wheel sensor. See, this line here goes right into here. So we need to disconnect that. We need to remove this brake caliper, hang it. I usually hang it from up here with a wire hanging down over here. And then, as I said in the car, we're going to disconnect this here, right? And then we're going to hit that, and that's going to drop. And that'll make it easier for us to get this out with a wrench, this nut here, right? And then we hit on this, and this separates. And then this whole knuckle will just drop into my lap, and then we could pull the axle from here. You can see in here how torn this boot is. It's ridiculous. Doesn't want to focus for you, but it's torn to shreds in there already. Hasn't even been in there very long. I'm taking my time, but I ran into a hard time separating this upper ball joint here. I really had to pound the heck out of it. So anyhow, this axle now, I'm going to get underneath here and try to pry it off. And I'll let you guys watch that. We'll see how that goes. Alright, let's give this a shot. Sometimes it comes out easy. Oftentimes it doesn't. I think it just came out. Yeah, it came out of there, but I think the input shaft came out with it. And if it did, that's okay. That's happened before. But that was for some guy that accused me of not showing you everything in one of my videos. It's not that difficult, this stuff. Alright. Let's undo this wire here and see what happens. You don't have to do this step with the wire. I just do it because it seems to hold the axle straight. There we go. Okay. So input shaft is still in there. We're good. We lost a little fluid, but we're okay. And here we go. Sweet. We're good. I'm going to go ahead and try to just slam this thing in there right now. I'd like to, there we go. You know, I'm going to wire this upper control arm up out of the way so it stays up, because I want to get a, I've learned my lesson with this in the past. I like to, I want to get that axle in straight. If you get it in straight, you can kind of shove it into place in one shot usually, and then it goes in. If it doesn't go in straight in one shot, now you start running into all kinds of like these weird, you know, you're confused about it. Oh, did it seat right? Bottom line is, once it goes in there, if you can't get it out, it's in there. So, it's not easy to work around everything here, but okay. That felt like it went in. I'm pulling on it. It won't pull out. So I think we're in there. I don't like tapping on it. I always feel funny about that, but let me eyeball it. Try to bounce it up on here for a moment. This flange is bent. I don't know if you could see that in the screen. It came from out of the box like that. it looks like we're probably in there enough. It's about, man, maybe 1/4 of an inch of gap of shaft protruding, which feels about right. Yeah, I think we're in there. I think we're golden. That's not going anywhere. I feel like, and I could be wrong with this, but I feel like once you get the wheel hub assembly in and everything, if that clip didn't catch, it can't go anywhere. I don't think it's a concern, but it's in there. All right, well, I thought to myself, it's not a how-to video, but I'll let you guys watch me try to muscle this in here now. This is the hard part, kind of, sometimes. Okay. This light is in my eyeballs. Okay. Look at that. That worked out. Now, that's not the right size. Okay. Okay. So TrakMotive did not send a washer with the nut. The old ones have a washer built into it. Hopefully the threads match, and they do. So we're going with the old one. So TrakMotive, something you guys might want to be on top of there. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. Obviously not concerned about getting it torqued. I just want this to get in enough to where when I go to put the upper ball joint in, it lines up a little bit better. I could be thinking about this incorrectly, but I think that's right. This is the part where you had a buddy helping you with stuff. It's always nice to have another set of hands. But lower this now. Okay. This is where the jack comes in handy. You know what? I'm going to get the jack. I'm going to put underneath the lower control arm and jack that up, and that'll push this into place, and then I can get the nut on there. That's the easier, faster way to do it. Apologies for camera quality here. I just want to get that castle nut started, because as you turn it, it'll suck all that up. That worked out better anyhow. Okay, so that's it, man. CV's in on this side. No big issues. Again, separating this, I beat on this, and I mushroomed this, which is not good. This is where the brake caliper bolts to, right in here. So I got to file that flat before I put the brake caliper back on. No big deal. And but that's it. I can reassemble this and get onto the other side. So I get that in, and the right way to do that is get it snug and then eyeball the hole for the cotter pin. And if you're off, you want to tighten it a little bit to get the cotter pin hole to line up. You don't want to back it off. You better be a little over snug than light on that. Same thing when I go to put this in. All right, same thing there, and then we're golden. And I'll go ahead and wipe that stuff clean too real quick. All right, so this side's all buttoned up, and looking around, I got to pull the wire there, but you'll see there's not a lot of rubbing here on the frame on this side. Remember, we're running 32-inch tires. So that's a good sign. I did heat and beat this. You can see it's not really rubbed very much like the other side. Also, I put new control arm bushings in here, and they're already falling apart. And I put those in back in 2017, and that bothers me. You know, they don't last very long, and that's not good, because that's a job, man. You know, you need somebody to press them in with a machine to do that. And yeah, also I snugged this up pretty good. I didn't use the torque wrench on it yet. I'll do that on the ground, and I couldn't get this to spin, so I backed it out, and now it spins freely. So that freaked me out for a second. This wheel does turn the drive shaft as well. So anyhow, this is in there, and we're going to move on to the other side. And it's about 10 minutes to noon. So, you know, just over an hour, really. And I've been taking my time, and I've been inspecting stuff and figuring stuff out and wiping things down. I think you could take the wheel off, replace the one CV in probably about 45 minutes if you weren't trying to talk to a camera or something. I think this is definitely a 2-hour job, max, by yourself. Let me get the other side done. If I think I need to record, so I'll probably show you a couple things here and there. It's pretty straightforward stuff. All right, so some observations here. This is how I do it. I put the wire through the bolt hole on the brake caliper, and I run it up through the upper shock mount. Something I just noticed here is this line. I don't know what this line is. It's running down to the engine. It's running into the radiator. And it looks like this friggin' thing's in my way. Okay, right here. There's some fluid that looks reddish to me. It looks like this is going bad here. So, well, that's your transmission line probably. That's your transmission cooler, I'm guessing. Looks like that might need to be addressed. So it's one of those things that you want to notice when you're under here. Also, I've got this leaking here. Now, I believe this is all original, the suspension here, and I know people replace these parts, like the whole assembly, but I think that the original factory stuff is better. So, I don't know. Can I just replace the boots on here, or maybe the whole thing should get replaced? You guys let me know. I would be done right now, except I was just kind of snugging up this nut. I mentioned it on the driver's side. If I tightened it up, I couldn't get the hub to spin. And remember, I pointed out in the box, I showed you how when I took it out of the box, the flange was bent. There are no flanges on the ones that come out. No flange right here. But what's happening is the flange is locking up on the back side of that knuckle. And I'm all buttoned up pretty much here, and I realize I got to take the flange off. I hope that can be knocked off. If it doesn't knock off, I got to eyeball this. Either it could work. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to send it. I tried talk. Listen, you guys don't know, but tomorrow, our boy Aaron Spoolstra, the Viking Wizard Astro van guy, who's at 8 of these things. It would be great if he's here today, but he's not. I just called Dave and told him what was going on. So what I realized was, it hit me as I was talking to him. The flange seats into that knuckle. It fits perfect. It was designed for it. But the thing is, none of the old axles I've ever had, like I just said, ever had the flange on it. So I've never dealt with this before. And so I took that apart because I was going to figure out the flange. It doesn't look like I can just knock it off. And I called Dave. Wrong guy to call. He's like overly like, well, you know, inspect. Well, I think what's going to go on, that's dirty in there. So what I did was I snugged up this side again. Like not torqued the full 175 foot-pounds of torque, but pretty good. And I can't turn it. But then I put the wheel on. And I can turn it. I'll show you. Okay. Now, because the wheel is so much bigger, it's like having a big steering wheel. So I can get this to turn. It's not taking a whole lot of force for me to do that. So what I'm thinking is, and you guys, I think I just put some pictures in here. All right, I think I added some pictures. If I didn't, I'll add them after I'm done talking here. I think all that's going to happen is like that flange, it's just like a thin metal. It's not like something heavy duty. I think what's going on is inside of the knuckle where that flange is setting, it's dirty and mucky because I never had one of these axles that had a flange on it before. And so it's binding on that. And I think if I drive it, it's going to act like an emery cloth there. It's going to file everything down a little bit. And it's probably going to run fine. But if I were you, and TrakMotive right now is like, no, don't do that. Sorry, TrakMotive, I'm not a professional mechanic. If I were you, and you run into this, I would get some sandpaper or emery cloth and some degreaser and whatever else and clean the inside of that knuckle out where that flange for that axle, the CV goes in. Clean it out really well. Maybe take a little grease on your finger and put it in there and then put it in. I'm doing what I'm doing because I don't want to take this apart again. And my brain is telling me it's going to be fine. So once I seat all that, put everything together, torque it, I'm going to take it for a test drive around the block, run an errand, pick up some food, drive back over here real quick, and then jack it up again, and then just try to spin the wheel by hand and see if I feel a difference. I suspect it'll spin more freely. I guess we'll find out. Stay tuned. It's not over yet. All right, so we're 3 hours in. I got on the phone with Dave, talked to him for a bit, like you know already. I just buttoned it up. I torqued everything down, 175 pounds on the axle bolt. I'm going to go ahead and double check the lug nuts, and then I'm going to take this thing for a test spin, and I'll take you with me. We'll see. We might hear something weird, but I suspect it'll go away. The flange on this side here was out. So I backed the nut off and I took a screwdriver and with a hammer and a screwdriver, I tapped that in and I tightened it back up and it seated pretty well. I think that's how it's supposed to be. Let's go for a drive. See if we feel any resistance with the wheels or if we hear anything weird. I got to do a little shopping, so go to the store. Well, she's rolling fine. I'm not feeling any resistance. Let's take it for a drive and then come back, jack it up, and I'll see if I can, as I mentioned already, I'm sure. It's funny on these back streets here in Los Angeles, everybody thinks that there's a stop sign at every intersection, and there isn't. Well, I mean, feels normal. You know, maybe it feels like it's dragging a hair. I would expect there would be a little bit of a drag. think I'm going to take this further down the road. I think I'm going to do like a loop. I'm going to drive its speed down third a little bit. A blinker would be nice. There you go. So yeah, it feels like there's a little bit of drag. It's been a drag. I started off by me almost busting this finger here this morning. So I drove a few blocks at speed. Now I'm on the back streets and going to, what are we doing here? It's the Jewish neighborhood. For some reason, these people like to walk in the street. They don't like using the sidewalk. I don't know what the heck that's about. What I'm trying to do now is let this van roll, and I'm not giving it any gas. I just want to see if it's going to roll to a stop. I'm hitting a speed bump now. Just inertia here, no gas. She's rolling pretty well. I think we're going to be fine. Let's go to the store. I think even if I jack it up and there's a little bit of resistance, that it's still going to wear itself in. I'll get back to you. I don't know what is going on. Zombies, man. Zombies are real. It's crazy. Also, Los Angeles, any big city, you get people doing whatever they want to do. It's kooky. I think that it's going to be fine with these flanges. Let's see what happens when we get to the house. I don't know that I drove enough for it to wear in right. I feel like I feel a little bit of resistance, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think that's going to wear in, as I keep saying. I'm not hearing any weird sounds, anything new. Like I thought maybe I'd hear like a whistle kind of screech or something from that metal rubbing. You would think the friction would do that. But I'm not feeling it. The thing about the flange is it's a good idea. So I think I mentioned it already in the video. If you get these from TrakMotive and you run into the same issue, I would say clean out the inside of your knuckle real well with some emery cloth or something, get it all degreased, get it almost to a polish. And maybe, I mean, I don't think it would hurt to put like a little bit of high temp grease, like that red and tacky in there possibly, just around the outside edge of it. Probably not a bad idea. Trying to see what the spacing's like. Nothing hit when I was driving. Let me cut the wheel, see what that looks like. We've got plenty of room with the axle and the shock. that was the big concern, was clearance when you cut the wheel. So TrakMotive, we're golden there. All right, we got this one wheel up. I think this will be enough. I'm so pro. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That turns fine. I think we're golden. Let me move the jack a hair. Just double check the other side. The rear wheels are blocked. I know people don't like seeing these stacked blocks here, but honestly, it doesn't matter. That weight right now is not gonna. That's not gonna go anywhere. It's all, I should have centered it better, but if it goes, it goes. I'm not under the van. I'm not worried about it. I do have the rear wheels blocked. Let's. I don't know if you guys can see, but hopefully you can see. Yeah, we're golden. Excellent. So. No worries, man. I got nervous. You can't blame me. How about the zombie? What the hell? What was that all about? That was crazy. All right. One thing I noticed when I jack this up is the wheel goes out of camber pretty good. And that's oftentimes, you guys correct me, but that's oftentimes a sign you need new ball joints. I'm not going to worry about the moment, but I'll order them at some point. Now that we got the TrakMotive axles in, I can go ahead and figure out my rear springs. And I think there's a new plan on that, which is going to be, I'm going to talk to a spring guy about it. Basically, the lean is about 1.25 inches on the driver's side. I'll double check that, but that's usually what it is about. And I'll get that correct. And I'll have new springs made. I'll still weigh the van on all 4 corners, but what I have on there now is S10 springs. So I think they're at that's like 1,500 or 1,800 pounds. I'm thinking if I got some springs made for like 2,000 to 2,400, and I had the driver's side arced to give me an extra 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches on that side, and I told them I want 3 or 4 inches of lift out of those springs plus the extra on that side, I think that'll do it. But I got to talk to somebody about that, and I don't know what it's going to cost, and I'm hoping I could work with a place that'll give me a deal so that you guys will know, and you'll be able to just call a place and say, hey, I've got a camper Astro van. I need the heavy duty off-road Astro van springs, and you'll be able to go to that guy, but I'll do the work for you. We'll figure it out. Meanwhile, I'll let you guys know, and TrakMotive know how this works out. Sorry if I freak out there, TrakMotive. Wasn't used to the flange. Everything's fine. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Be kind to one another.